Let's be honest, keeping up with the news cycle these days feels less like being informed and more like living through a fever dream. Just when you think things couldn't possibly get weirder, the universe says, "Hold my beverage." If you tuned into The Daily Show this past Monday, November 17, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The legend himself, Jon Stewart, was back in the chair, and thank goodness he was. We needed a guy to navigate the absolute madness that dropped earlier this week. Stewart didn't waste a single second. He dove headfirst into the latest, murkiest, and frankly, most bizarre chapter of the Jeffrey Epstein saga. And guys, it involves leaked emails, Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, and a phrase that I never, ever thought I would have to type out in a news recap: blowing Bubba. Buckle up. We're breaking down exactly how Jon Stewart ripped into the absurdity of it all, why Trump is suddenly flipping the script, and why we're all simultaneously laughing and horrified. The Season 8 premiere of the Epstein Files. There is something so comforting about the way Jon Stewart delivers bad news. He manages to look at the camera with the same exhausted expression we all have on our faces. To kick off his monologue, Stewart jokingly referred to the recent leaks as the premiere of Season 8 of the Epstein Files. It's a dark joke, but it lands because it's true. This story just keeps coming back, haunting the headlines like a ghost that refuses to be exorcised. Old emails continue to resurface, Stewart explained, noting that these leaks have sparked renewed interest in the case. But it wasn't just any boring legal document that caught the world's attention. It was a specific exchange that is so chaotic, so specifically unhinged, that it almost reads like bad fan fiction. Stewart put it perfectly: exchanges like this one really encapsulate the absolutely astonishing nature of this entire affair. The email that broke the internet. Okay, here is the tea. The late-night host pulled up the viral email exchange between Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender, and his brother, Mark Epstein. First of all, and Stewart beat us to the punch on this one, Jeffrey Epstein had a brother. That was the first shocker of the night. But the contents of the email, that's where things went off the rails. In the email, Mark is telling his brother, Jeffrey, to ask former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon a very specific question. The question was, if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Read that again. Let it sink in. Stewart, in his classic fashion, didn't just read it and move on. He dissected it like a professor teaching a masterclass in surrealism. This sentence may be 18 words long, Stewart quipped, trying to keep a straight face. 7 of those words are Steve Bannon, Putin, Fogos, Trump, blowing, Bubba. He paused for effect, letting the audience's laughter swell. It's a rich text. Literary scholars will secure tenure off the analysis of this text. And isn't that the truth? It's a sentence that combines international politics, disgraced financiers, reality TV stars, and, well, acts that usually don't make it into diplomatic cables. It's the kind of sentence that proves reality is often stranger than anything a writer could come up with. The mystery of Bubba. Naturally, the internet and Jon Stewart had questions. Who is Bubba? Why is this happening? Is this real life? Stewart highlighted a follow-up statement released by Mark Epstein. In an attempt to do some damage control, if that's even possible at this point, Mark claimed that the reference to Bubba was not about former President Bill Clinton. Now, if you grew up in the 90s or follow politics at all, you know that Bubba is practically Bill Clinton's trademark nickname. So, Mark's denial felt a little bit like telling us the sky isn't blue. Stewart's reaction was pure gold. "Thank you for clearing that up. No further questions, Your Honor," he said sarcastically, but he couldn't let it go there. He leaned into the camera, channeling the confusion of the entire nation. "Boy, before I go, one last thing. Which Bubba was he blowing then?" The audience lost it. Stewart continued, spiraling into the joke. "It's not Bubba Gump. That's a restaurant, and you can't blow a restaurant." He then paused, flashed that mischievous grin, and added a quick disclaimer for the former president. "By the way, that's not a challenge, Mr. President." It's this kind of levity that makes Stewart so vital. He takes a subject that is objectively dark and disturbing and finds the frantic humor in the margins, allowing us to process the insanity without spiraling into despair. Boring stuff versus the load. Here is where the story pivots to Donald Trump. You would think, given the explosive nature of these emails, that everyone involved would be scrambling. But initially, Trump tried to play it cool, like really cool. Stewart played a clip showing Trump trying to brush off the Epstein files entirely, calling the whole drama boring stuff. Boring? Boring? We are talking about secret photos, Putin, and billionaires behaving badly. You can call it many things, tragic, criminal, scandalous, but boring isn't exactly the word that comes to mind. Stewart looked genuinely shocked by this characterization. Did you see the blowing email? He screamed. It's kind of interesting. And then, Stewart couldn't resist dropping a few more puns that had the censors sweating. I mean, the little taste of that, no pun intended, did arouse, again, no pun intended, some curiosity about the rest of, if I may, the load. He paused, looked dead at the camera, and delivered the punchline, that one I meant. It's crude, maybe. Is it hilarious watching a distinguished political commentator make load jokes on national television? Absolutely. It highlights just how ridiculous the source material is. You can't treat this with highbrow seriousness when the emails themselves read like a frat house group chat. The great declassification flip-flop. The segment took a turn from the comedic to the analytical when Stewart pointed out Trump's sudden change of heart. After initially dismissing the files, Trump has recently come out saying he has nothing to hide and is actually encouraging House Republicans to vote in favor of releasing the Epstein files. It sounds like a bold move towards transparency, right? Well, Stewart wasn't buying it without a receipt. He posed a very simple logical question. If Trump wants the files released so badly, why didn't he do it when he was literally the most powerful man in the world? He could have declassified and released these files himself at any time, Stewart argued. And how do we know this? Because Trump told us so. Stewart reminded the audience of one of Trump's most famous and meme-worthy claims regarding his powers as president. He flashed back to the interview where Trump insisted that a president can declassify documents just by saying it's declassified, even just by thinking about it. Even just by thinking about it. Stewart let that hang in the air. The hypocrisy is the point. The joke isn't just that Trump is flipping his stance, it's that the logic never applied in the first place. It exposes the political theater of it all. Trump calls it boring when it's scary and calls for transparency when he's no longer the one holding the keys, all while the rest of us are just trying to figure out who Bubba is. Why we need this laughter? Look, the Epstein scandal is horrific. At its core, it is about terrible crimes and the abuse of power. It's not funny. But the circus surrounding it, the leaked emails about Putin and Bubba, the desperate scrambling of politicians trying to save face, that is a circus that deserves to be mocked. Jon Stewart's return to The Daily Show reminds us why comedic journalism is so powerful. He doesn't just read the news, he acts as a pressure release valve. He validates our confusion. He looks at the camera and says, yes, this is crazy. You are not crazy for thinking this is crazy. For a few minutes on a Monday night, we didn't have to feel doom and gloom. We got to laugh at the sheer incompetence and weirdness of the elite. We got to laugh at the phrase, blowing Bubba. And honestly, in times like these, that laughter is worth its weight in gold. What do you think about the leaked emails? Do you buy the denial about who Bubba is? Watch the full monologue and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.